on, Wolfpack Nation? Welcome again to another episode of Tuffy Talk. Thank you all so much again for tuning in here. As we got an interesting episode, kind of a change up the pace here episode a little bit here, as I like to call it. So basically today, we're not necessarily going to be discussing a certain topic necessarily per se, but we're basically going to today just kind of talk about our background as a State fan, kind of what made us a State fan. What are some of our favorite State fans from way past history that kind of helped develop, grow our fandom for NC State. And also, do we actually have a couple of stories here directly from fans or followers as well that we want to actually put out here as well. So, but a couple things first before we get into that. So make sure, first of all, if you haven't done it already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. Again, it's free to do, and it really helps support us. And also, to actually make sure that you don't miss out on any of our new content. So if you haven't done it yet, it just means you don't like me. Why don't you like me? Hit the subscribe button, please. So, but no, definitely make sure to do that. And also, second of all, make sure to, again, hit that like button, so that way more State fans, per the YouTube algorithm, will be able to see this. And then also to make sure to give us a follow at Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter or Instagram. But again, we're joined here today by Michael Tracy, myself, Leighton Smith, and then the man, the myth, the legend, Greg, the Broken Leg Haas. So, I hope y'all are doing well today. And again, we'll have some fun here today. But so first of all, kind of jumping into it. So I guess first of all, we'll kind of start off by kind of talking about, so I'll kind of hand it off to you, Michael, first, and then Greg, and then myself. Kind of talking about, kind of what made you a State fan, and by the way, I will take that you were born a State fan as a legitimate response, but if there's anything to do to grow off of that, then great. And we'll just kind of start there. So Michael, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was, like you said, I was born a State fan. My dad, went to NC State. He graduated in 1983. That was his senior year. So that was a pretty good year for him. And like I said, it's just like, I don't really have one specific memory of becoming a State fan because that's just all I know. I mean,
yeah,
I've got, like, I guess some of the earliest memories I really don't remember. So I'm 26 now. I was born in 95. So I don't really remember Phillip Rivers, watching him. Like, the first quarterbacks I remember watching was like Jay Davis and Marcus Stone, which is not great, but
yeah,
tough to follow Rivers. But and I've always just pretty much, like I said, it's been my whole life. I mean, and out of all my sports fandoms, NC State is definitely number one over any, NFL or MLB team.
Yep, fair enough. Greg, I'm gonna let you pass it on, my man. I know your red and white runs deep, so I'm sure you got some stories to add off of it.
Yeah. So I mean, much like Michael, my dad's from this area. He was born in Apex when it was a country mile out there. He was at a little clinic. He was born out there. So same thing. He told me that we're a Wolfpack family, and if not, you can sleep out in the dog's house. And we went from there. But I have some early memories. I'm a little older than Michael. In fact, I graduated from high school the year he was born. So so my memories go a little bit further back. But I definitely remember sitting on the grass hill back when it was a hill before they closed it in. Sitting at, like we were talking about before we started here, sitting in Reynolds when it was old school Reynolds, going to the Peach Bowls, in like 92, 93, I think it was. It runs deep for me, but that's just where I started from. So I've loved every minute of it, and I love the ride. And like Michael, I think, I love my pro team, but not as much as my NC State. So I'm all in.
For sure. Yeah, the only pro team I really love is whatever pro team my fantasy football players are playing.
There you go.
And whichever one's NC State players are on as well. Absolutely. It's always a funny, right. Well, it's always a funny question when people ask, so what team do you cheer for? It's like, well, I cheer for the Panthers because they're the local team. They were the Redskins, but now they're the football team. And coming up, they're going to be releasing the logo. But I cheer for them because my parents have been diehard Washington fans since they were young.
Yeah.
But then I also cheer for, but then I also cheer for, the Chiefs because Tooney's there. I cheer for Patriots because, Myers is there. So it's like the list can go on and on. So basically I can almost cheer for almost every team except for the Cowboys. I would never cheer for the Cowboys. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, really, for me, yeah, it's my whole family at one point or another has worked for NC State athletics. Both of my parents worked for maintenance at NC State one time. My uncle actually retired from NC State. He used to run Reynolds, and then he actually moved to Murphy Center his last couple of years, and he was actually the driver of what was called the Big Bad Wolf truck, which is the equipment truck during the time. And the reason why it was called that was back in the day, probably early 2000s. There was basically the truck itself had a ginormous wolf, like set of wolf eyes on the front of the truck, which were pretty, scary. Because for me at the time, I was, probably 8, 9, 10 years old when I first saw a truck. And I still remember to this day that we actually lived on a cul-de-sac, and he would actually drive the truck down just to, be like, hey, check it out, and it was crazy. This, first of all, see this huge,
wolf truck,
big wheeler truck, just sitting in your cul-de-sac. But, and then I had another uncle who retired from NC State as well. And then I actually have another one who still works for NC State. He actually does facilities at Carter Finley. And one actually funny story, which I'll tell you from my family's past, is so my dad actually, this was still when it was in Reynolds, if I'm not mistaken, and he had a ladder on a trophy case because he was cleaning the trophy cases, if I'm not mistaken. And this was during the State Carolina game, and so back when radio was a big thing. And and then he was cleaning because it wasn't like a triangle ladder. It was like a leaning up against ladder. And so he was up there, he was cleaning whatever. And a couple of days before that, they cleaned the floors, or they buffed the floors, whatever it is. And so literally all of a sudden the ladder just went out from under him, and he just he held on to the ladder like this and just went bah. And apparently the noise was so loud that on the radio, that radio guy all of a sudden said, there was a loud bang. There must have been, some kind of accident here at Reynolds Coliseum. Well, so my mom, she was at home, and so she heard this on the radio, and she freaked out, and because she was like, well, that can only be a couple of things, and there's a good chance my father was a part of it. So she went over to him, and he broke both of his wrists. He broke some of his fingers, all that jazz, and so that was kind of a funny story, just because it wasn't necessarily just it was on NC State radio during the State Carolina game that he fell.
Yeah.
And I'm actually the first person from my family to go to a Division I school. But it's funny though, because I actually got originally declined from NC State. Which, kind of hurt a little bit, first, but again, I still loved them. So I went to UNC Charlotte for a year and then transferred back in. But, while I was at UNC Charlotte, I still wore state stuff every single day, even though I went to UNC Charlotte. So I was that guy walking around Charlotte. So since we kind of all shared ours, I wanted to kind of share, first of all, this one from a follower, which I thought was amazing. It's a little bit lengthy here, but it's a great story. So it's from David Ayers, who actually is the one recommended an episode like this. But he said, so I grew up in Charlottesville, about 20 or 30 minutes from UVA's campus. My uncle was an NC State alum. He played football at Notre Dame High School in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He was recruited to play at State for a tight end position. He opted not to, and he graduated from the School of Architecture. Every Christmas, my mother would drive us down to his loft in downtown Raleigh on West Martin Street, what is now across from Crank Arm. Over the years, we would come down, and he would drive me and my brother around Raleigh to show us his projects. And many times while in Raleigh, we would go to football games to Carter Finley. He had partner of Clearscapes architecture firm. After I graduated from Liberty, we moved to Durham and moved our lives to North Carolina. In 2019, my uncle Steve passed away from cancer. But if it wasn't for him, I would never be an NC State fan. To me, it's a connection to him. Some of the projects he designed include Marbles, Convention Center, and Union Station. Cool. But for me, it's a connection to him. So when I see all the positivity, it reminds me of my uncle and always keep them
Cool.
close to him. So
That's awesome.
I know. So I was like, dang, see that goes
Yeah,
way
I know.
beyond just, you were born into it,
Exactly.
that's way goes way past that. But yeah, so give it to me. So Michael, do you remember, so here, let me ask you this. So do you remember the first time you saw Mr. and Mrs. Wolf? Do you remember that moment? Like, do you remember like a moment like to you?
I mean, not a specific one, but I remember,
younger?
being little and taking pictures with them at football or basketball games or like the fair or something. I don't think so. I'd have to ask my parents, but I don't think I was ever one that was like scared of mascots. I think I was pretty brave.
Yeah. Greg, you?
Yeah, well, I remember Mr. and Mrs. Wolf in previous versions, like not what they look like today.
Not Mrs. Wolf.
Just
That's right.
Wolf.
That's right. That's Miss Wolf. That's right. That's a good correction. But yeah, I remember them in their previous incarnations. And then with the demon deacon marrying them and all of that stuff. So like all the story and history. But I definitely remember. You get a lot more access now than you used to back in the day.
Really?
They get up. They get up in the stands better, and back in the day they used to just pretty much stay on the field and. But like the basketball games, especially we were at the women's game the other night, and they're very accessible at the women's game. So, and the men's game, if you're in the lower level, they're semi-accessible, but not like they were back in the day.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightland's Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need, offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightland's Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time wearing and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightland's Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. Yep. Well, here's one little tip as well that actually I wanted to throw out there, which I remember from when I was at State, that I was classmates with one of the Miss Wolves. And she actually gave me this little tip that if I'm not mistaken, and I'll ask NC State cheerleading to correct me on this, but basically there are different Miss Wolf heads. And so each Miss Wolf has her own, and the difference is the bow. The bow is a little different for each of them. And so that way you can tell who's in there based on what the bow looks like.
That's interesting.
That's interesting. That's a good idea. That's a cool little point, cool little touch there.
Yeah, we have a family friend. She was Miss Wolf. Excuse me, I'll get it right.
I know.
She used to wear a piece of jewelry, and so that's how we knew if it was her.
That might be what it is too. Yeah. Yeah. So I remember it's like a little thing that like State fans probably wouldn't even know, but it helps. So that's a good point. Yeah, and the reason why I say that is I remember going to a basketball game with my mom, just my mom, and we were walking up the section and about to walk out, and we turned the corner, and all of a sudden there's Mr. Wolf and his protege or his people around him, and I see Mr. Wolf, and again I was probably 7 years old, probably time 6, 7 years old. I saw him, absolutely lost my crap, just like oh my gosh, and like was like ran to her arms, and so it basically was so bad that my mom actually was like dipping out, going, "Can you go away, please?" and so luckily enough they did, and so I could calm down. But that was unfortunately was my not so great first moment meeting Mr. Wolf. But I was the guy too, like even like when we went to like the circus and stuff like that, I was scared to death of the clowns and stuff like that too. I don't know,
clowns are a whole different story.
That's a whole different
clowns
game.
Are creepy.
Yeah. A few years ago, we had Mr. and Miss Wolf at our tailgate, and Mr. Wolf was flipping burgers on my grill, so that was pretty cool. His handlers didn't like it. They're like, "Get away from you're gonna catch fire." And so they were like, "Get back." Yeah, but they were out there flipping stuff on my grill. It was pretty cool. I got some cool pictures of that, so that was really cool. So yeah.
Well, and it goes another story to that as well. So my wife, for those who don't know, we actually we had a pretty NC State themed wedding, and basically so we actually had the rehearsal dinner on the first floor of Vaughn Towers.
Nice.
So literally we rented out the first floor of Vaughn Towers and had our rehearsal dinner in there. We had Howlin' Cow ice cream at our rehearsal dinner. We actually had it. So my uncle actually hooked us up, and he actually had on the scoreboard. It had like, Ashland Layton on there. So that was cool. Which also too, a little tidbit as well, because we learned this afterwards, is that if you get Howlin' Cow ice cream for an event, you cannot take it home. We learned that the hard way. We got, like 2 big tubs of ice cream, expecting that, if we don't finish it, we'll take it home. We'll, separate it out. We'll each have some.
Did you pay for it?
You can't take it home with you. So
that's not entirely true. So
is it, Greg? Tell me.
We actually had Howlin' Cow at our wedding. We actually had a Howlin' Cow ice cream sundae bar.
That's what we did.
Mm-hmm. We bought it from the creamery, and so our wedding was off site out in Creedmoor. And so we bought 3-gallon tubs of ice cream for our wedding. So maybe if you have the event on school property, maybe it's a little different. But
that's probably what it is. Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And we just got married this year, so maybe I don't know. Maybe they've changed the rules since, or I don't know.
Well, because it was actually done by NC State, whatever the catering company is for NC State.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's who did it. So that's probably why. That's true. That's probably why, because it was done by NC State Catering. So that's a good point. But then also too, so we did our first reveal in front of the hall, right beside the President's Hall, right beside the bell tower. And we actually stayed at the loft facing the bell tower, so literally you can open up your windows and there's the bell tower. At the time they were doing the construction on it, so with all the fences around it, it was so beautiful seeing all the
orange cones
and dirt around, and the orange cones around the bell tower. So we had a pretty NC State theme. So anyway, basically what I'm getting at is, like, I always joke saying, oh my gosh, we should totally get Mr. or Mrs. Wolf to show up. Mrs. Wolf. Again, it's always tough because they're married, so it's always natural to say Mrs. Wolf, but no, it would, trust me. I think it was either Debbie Yao or somebody else was kind of correcting me on why it's still Miss Wolf. But anyway, so I was like, we should totally have them come to our wedding, and my wife was always like, no way, like, I'm not gonna have like this whole NC State themed wedding, like we're not gonna do that. Well, it was, I think, like a couple months later, and we saw on social media that there was a wedding that had Mr. and Miss Wolf there, and she was like, oh, that's so cute, man, I would have loved pictures. I'm like,
I told you.
Like, we totally could have made that happen easily.
We tried to do it, but COVID wouldn't let us, so we were gonna do it. But I do have a good story about our wedding with NC State. So we did the Howlin' Cow Sunday bar, because we're not big cake people, but we did a little cake just for the ceremony, just to show the pictures and cutting it. But on the top, the topper was me watching an NC State football game on TV, and I had a couple of my favorite hard ciders. Like, the lady made like little cans of hard cider on my cake, and she did like bags of Doritos, and then you can see like claw marks on the cake with my wife pulling me away from the TV. But on the TV was Donovan Knight scoring a touchdown against UVA from last year. Like, she put a graphic. She put a graphic. So I tweeted it out, and I said, like, hey, Donovan, thanks for making a special guest appearance at our wedding. And he was like, hey, man, glad I could be there for you. Like, he like retweeted it out and responded. And then ESPN, ESPN reached out and said they wanted to use the photo for some kind of promotion and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was our little touch of NC State. We had some NC State cornhole and tailgate games out in the yard, and so we did a little bit of NC State, not as much as you, Leighton, but we definitely had to have it a part of our wedding since it is such a big part of our lives.
Absolutely. And so Michael, so let me try and get you into this. So did you ever go to any NC State sports camps growing up as well, or any kind of NC State camps growing up?
I did. It wasn't until high school, actually. I think I went, and when I played football at Cardinal Gibbons High School, right across the street from Carter Finley, and
state champion.
First time.
State champs.
This was their third year in a row they made it, and first time they won. But same coach when I was there, so I was happy for him. But yeah, I I played left tackle actually, and I went to just the NC State football camp, and I was way outmatched. Like some of those guys that go there, they're huge, and like I started in high school and I was all conference, but like some of those guys there were just huge. Like it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Tom O'Brien or Dave Dorn?
That would have been. Let's see.
That would probably been the end of O'Brien, if I were to guess.
2010. It was probably 2013.
2010.
I was saying 2010 was my freshman year, but I didn't go. I think before my senior year in high school, so it would have been the summer of 2013. So that would have been Dorn. It would have been
Dorn.
That would have been Dorn.
Yeah,
early Dorn.
That was the only one I went to when I was at NC State. I did work kind of as a manager during the summer. I wasn't a full-time manager for the basketball team during the whole season, but over the summer I would help out, and I did two Mark Godfrey camps and then one of Keats's first year, his camp. So I worked there just kind of, if they needed me to coach some of the little kids. I had a team one year. The other 2 years I didn't have a team, but 1 year I had a team of like 7 and 8 year olds. That was fun. And then the other 2 years, it was pretty much just kind of doing whatever they needed. I had to ref a couple games. That sucked. Because you got parents of kids at camps yelling at you. I'm like, I am not a referee. I just got thrown into this. But kind of just helping out with those camps, doing whatever. Running back and forth between the Dale Center and the gym. So
makes sense. Any for you, Greg?
No, I mean I lived out of the area, so I've lived in Virginia most of my life. So
gotcha.
Now it's kind of cool because you can follow it on social media, like some of our family friends or Facebook friends. You can see their kids going to the camp, so it's pretty cool. But nothing for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. For me though, so I've been to a couple. First of all, I remember my first camp I ever went to was actually the soccer camp, which I can't remember. It was a long time NC State men's soccer coach. But he was so again, this was probably late 1990s when I went there, and I just remember he was always so funny because I mean he was real with us. I mean it still is 100% true in soccer. He always he basically. The one lesson I always remember is basically once you catch the ball, kick the ball. Like he was like he would always basically say like don't hold on to the ball, kick the ball. Like pass it to somebody else, shoot it, something, kick it. And but then also too I went but then after that I switched to Pop Warner football, and so I actually went to Chuck Amato's camp like in 2001, 2002, something like that, and that was cool. And because at the time we were sponsored by Gatorade, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So I still remember the little Gatorade, the Gatorade bottles and all that jazz. And then same thing with Michael's. I actually went to O'Brien's camp in 2011, and because I was actually playing defensive end for my high school at Panther Creek. That went against Cardinal games this year, actually. And so the one thing which I remember about it is that I feel like there's two different reasons that people go to college football camps. One is to get recruited. I think that's why most of them go there. Second is just I'm just trying to learn, how to play football a little bit better. And so like you get there and you like whether you're there to be recruited or not, you do all the stuff, whether it's like the reach, the jumping, the 40-yard dash, the shuttle, all that jazz. And it's like, hey, listen. This is great. And trust me, I know they're not going to be impressive. So you don't have to put me through this here. So again, kind of like Michael, just like, you learned a little bit for sure, but, obviously, the biggest thing of those for sure is obviously to, try and find talent, which I get, at the end of the day, hey, it's a college, you're trying to take advantage of it. So, so definitely, it was a good time. And actually, I can't remember who the D-line coach was at the time, but I actually got coached by his son, which is why it's kind of embarrassing. I can't think of his name, but I remember he went to the Montreal Alouettes, I think is what the team is, the professional team in Montreal. Actually, after D-line coach left NC State. He actually went to Montreal and coached there. But anyway, so yeah, that was kind of my experience. But, again, it was a good time. And, hey, definitely learned. And, it was definitely cool to, kind of feel, like, kind of the experience of being an NC State football player. But that's as far as it went. So anyway, so unfortunately, we're going to have to stop it there for the time being. But, again, we'll pick this up here in part 2. We'll talk a little bit of, in-state background history here. And actually, I'll kind of share a couple of my fun stories from my time as being a football in-state equipment manager. So make sure to tune in with us and, make sure, again, hit that subscribe button and give us a follow, Tuffy Talk now, and give this video a like. And we'll see you back here for part 2. And as always, go Pack, y'all.